Hi everyone and welcome back to my podcast. My name is Alliyah and in today's episode we are going to be talking about why it is uber important for you to get rid of negative Nancy's from within your social network. So if this is a subject that rings true to you, or maybe it's something that you want to concentrate on, stay tuned and let's get into this episode. Okay, so let's get down to business, shall we? What is a negative Nancy? Now, I've never actually met many Nancys in my lifetime, so I'm not really sure why we call them negative Nancys. Maybe it's just because it rhymes. Maybe it's just one of those things. But a negative Nancy is basically a person that is constantly seeing things in a negative light. You put on a new dress, you know you look like $1,000,000 in that dress. The negative Nancy will turn around and say to you, Abby, your ass looks too big in it. They will find something to go off that is negative. And most of us, if not all of us, have these negative Nancys deeply seated within our actual social networks, and they are often the reason why we are scared to either leave our comfort zones or try something new or better ourselves, because the negative Nancys have such a strong hold over our mental ways of thinking and ways of processing things that we don't wish to challenge it. Now, I'm fully aware of the fact that there is certain pockets of the community across the board, so various different communities, that have aunties within the communities that are often seen as the negative Nancy, and not just seen as the negative Nancy, they are the actual negative Nancy. Now, for example, a young girl wants to try a different career other than, let's say, teaching and being a doctor. So we're talking about the brown community where teachers and doctors are the big two career choices for a lot of people. Say she comes along and she doesn't want to do that. Maybe she wants to go into engineering. Oh, but you wouldn't want to do that. It's very hard to get into. My sons, brothers, cousins, dads, uncles, brother-in-laws, cousin-in-law, neighbour, son hasn't been able to get a job for the past 3 millenniums. Okay, so that's a bit of a stretch, but that's the type of thing you're dealing with. The negative Nancy will find a way of basically pissing on your parade. And that's basically how they operate. They rain on your parade, they will thunder, they will lightning, they will strike your house, they will burn you down, they'll make sure that you feel like you're basically nothing. And that's how they get their kicks. That's basically what they do. So they will always, always, always find a negative spin on life. And you really don't need those negative Nancys in your life, especially if you're trying to bring about confidence, trying to bring about empowerment, or basically trying to, bring about transformation within your life. You certainly do not need a negative Nancy. You seriously do not need her. She basically needs to be kicked out. You don't need her. Get rid of her. She doesn't need to be there. You just need to get rid of them. And I know that's easier said than done. And that's why I'm recording this podcast episode, because I genuinely believe we do need to get rid of them. We just need to cut them out. Or if we can't cut them out, because maybe your negative Nancy is your aunt, maybe it's your mother, maybe it's somebody else that's close within your actual family, for example, you need to find ways of counterbalancing the amount of impact they actually have on you. So we do need to find a way of restricting their influence, and we're going to do that together. So what has a negative Nancy got to gain from having that much control over you and constantly raining negativity everywhere? Well, most of them, if not all of them, have actually been embedded so much in this negativity that they actually don't actually see it as being negative. The way they see it is they're actually providing an informative service. They're actually doing you a favour. They're protecting you. So instead of you possibly going for a new job that could bring you happiness, what are you actually doing? Well, what you're doing is you're being protected by negative Nancy, which is lovely, isn't it, really? However, if it is actually peeing on your parade, if it's stopping you from achieving brand spanking new things, if it's stopping you from excelling in your career, if it's actually stopping you from being the person that you love, then it's not really good, is it? It's definitely not good. And these are the type of things that, as humans, we start to think about, especially when we're in a constant cycle. If the person that's negative is negative all round, and it's pretty given that they are a negative Nancy, they are the classic that I'm talking about, they will find a negative way of spinning everything. They will do so without even batting an eyelid. It comes so naturally to them to be negative, and that's what's quite scary. Because, like I said, they don't actually register the fact that they're actually being negative. They actually see it as something quite positive, and that's like, whoa, okay, no, let's not do that. That's just scary. Let's focus on our own grass and let's focus on our own growth and let's stop meddling in other people's business. I mean, that would be phenomenal if some of these negative Nancy's, if not all of them, could master that. And also those interfering aunties as well within certain communities who feel the need to stick their oar in everyone else's business but their own children's. Isn't that funny? So, how on earth do you control a negative Nancy? Well, firstly, you need to take your power back. You need to become empowered and you need to say, you know what, negative Nancy auntie, no. And for a lot of us, that is often very much nearly impossible because how do you say that to your mum's sister or your dad's sister, whoever it is that, is the negative Nancy. And when you can't do that, you need to start building up a very, 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 very thick skin. And when I say thick skin, I'm talking like 5 walls of like titanium that will stop this negativity from penetrating your thought process so that you're able to actually get more done. You're able to achieve whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. You're able to go and live your happily ever after because you've managed to build up that wall and Auntie Negative Nancy couldn't climb over it. And that's what you need to do. Now, for some of us, we'll be able to get rid of that anti-negative and that's not a problem. That's amazing. And for us, some of us, the negative Nancy's within our lives are actually more social, so they're friends. So you can cut people out and you can, I suppose, unfriend them if they're on social media, for example. But for those of us that are stuck with people around us that we're related to who are negative Nancy's, we do need to find coping mechanisms and ways of preventing their negativity from trickling into our lives and basically taking over. Now, if it's your friend that is a negative Nancy, I want to say this to you. Just because you've been friends since you were in nappies or diapers over the pond does not mean you need to constantly listen to them, give them your energy, or allow them to be within your social circle. Your energy is precious. When you're friends with somebody, you give that friendship energy and vice versa. There's an exchange of energy. We are energy. Energy is all around us. There is an exchange of energy. So if you're exchanging your positive energy with somebody negative, you're taking in a part of their negative energy, and that will eventually start to affect you. And it will actually come about in your life without sometimes you even knowing, because you've been having an energy exchange with somebody and you haven't really thought about what may happen afterwards, which is quite normal. Most of us do it. But it can happen, and it does happen. Now, just because you've been friends all that time doesn't mean they need to continue on your life journey with you. You can cut them out. You can. I've been friends with people for a very long time, and when I figured out they were negative Nancy's, and when I figured out that there was no way I'd be able to progress with their support, I cut them out. And one of my friends in particular, it was a no-go. And the example I will use is when I mentioned the fact that my marriage was in trouble, she started whining about left, right and centre about her own rubbish. And when I say rubbish, I mean rubbish. It was nothing as important as the fact that I was gridlocked pretty much in the situation. And the only reason she stayed pretty much, I guess, friends with me is not because she felt, that I was an amazing friend. It's because she needed me, because her family vetted her friends, so to speak. And because I was married, I was a, shining example within the community. I was allowed to be her friend. So when I spoke to her and said to her, look, I really need to get out of this cycle. This cycle's killing me. She started spouting out the rubbish that she was brainwashed into believing. So I basically started taking in a way, a backseat in the relationship. I allowed her to get on with it. When she contacted me, I'd occasionally respond. But I actually didn't do anything in terms of contributing to that actual relationship. Because when I had my heart attack, she didn't even bother to come and see me. So I was like, right, okay, so if you're going to be a bitch, which basically is what she was being, then I'll just be a bitch back too. And she didn't contact me. She told me that she wasn't able to, and she wasn't able to see me in the hospital, and she wasn't able to come around to my house. She lives less than a 10-minute walk from my house, but she wasn't able to. A year after my heart attack, she kind of reached out, and I was thinking to myself, hell no. Right now, you're most probably going through something in your life and you need Alliyah to pick up the pieces. Alliyah is no longer available to pick up the pieces because Alliyah has learned a valuable lesson with that heart attack. So I didn't I didn't contact her back. I was like, nope, sorry, negative Nancy, you're out. I don't want you around me, and I certainly don't need you around my children. Because the way I saw it was, when I had that heart attack, if my friends, the ones that were nearby, were real friends, they would have literally stepped in and tried to console my children or tried to support my mom in the efforts of her making sure my kids were okay. But they didn't. So it's like, you know what? You don't care about me. You don't care about my children. You're negative. You're out. I'm not going to actually entertain this friendship anymore because I don't need to. I'm stronger than that. So I didn't get back in contact with her. And then about 6 months later, now I laugh about this now, but when you look back on it, you do sort of kind of, realise that there was a bit of a serious undertone to it. About 6 months later, my email got hacked. Okay. And it sent out those random stupid emails to everybody on my contact list, in regards to some stupid, extender for males. And it sent one to her. And of course, at the time, I didn't think anything of it, but I'd logged onto my email and realised I'd been hacked, and I was like, oh my God, I wonder who they sent. Have they sent like my family these weird emails? Are my family going to think I'm peddling this now? Is this what I'm up to these days? And then I thought, I'm not really bothered about what people think, so it shouldn't really make much difference. And then within hours, I got like a answer back to this email that the hackers had sent from my former friend. And in the email, she was talking about how, she'd been stressed and how she was depressed and how she was upset and she hopes I was okay and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, wait a second. You've responded to an email sent by a hacker from my account. You can clearly tell it's a hacker. I mean, I'm hoping you can clearly tell that I'm not peddling those extension tablets. And that's what we'll just call them for the sake of this podcast. I was hoping you'd be able to figure that out, and it doesn't take that much actual brain power, but I didn't actually respond to anything. I just deleted the email and got on with it. A good while later, it made me question many things within that friendship, which was, why did I constantly give? Well, the answer was, I wanted to be loved, I wanted to be appreciated, I wanted to be, I suppose, someone's bestie, so to speak, that was local, because my best friends were, the other side of the UK, so it's a bit harder to sort of get to them, so I wanted somebody local, but that never happened. And then, why else did I do it? Well, I felt I had to. I felt it was culturally appropriate for me to also have one brown friend within my network, at least one. Again, that didn't work out, did it? Let's be honest. And then I started to question whether or not she actually cared about the friendship, because in the email that she shot back to the extension email, all she kept going on about was herself. Again, she didn't ask me how the heart attack was. She just said, I hope you're okay. Hope the girls are good, blah, blah. And that was it. And it was a case of blah, blah, blah. This has happened, blah, 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 blah. My ex has done this and he's done that and he's now doing this and now he's doing that and blah, blah, blah. And then realised soon after that the reason that potentially she had reached out to me was she was going through a divorce. Her now ex-husband had got his British citizenship paperwork through and was now kicking her ass to the curb. And she obviously needed people to rally around her because her family felt that she was in the wrong. She was obviously not a good enough wife. And that's why this man was divorcing her. So that's why she needed me back. For her own, I suppose, use, rather than for the sake of a friendship. And I can't tell you how relieved I felt that I'd got rid of that negative Nancy when I heard about what was going on in her life. Not because I'm a selfish bitch, but some people will call me that, and that's absolutely fine. You've got your opinions, you're entitled to them. But because it made me realise that I'm the one who's got to look after myself, and I've got to preserve my own energy. I've got to look after myself. I'm number one. I prioritise myself, and that's how it should be. I can't expect anybody else to prioritise me. I prioritise myself, my own goddamn self. I prioritise me. I am important, and that is the end of the story. So I got rid of my negative Nancy. Felt so much better for it. There was never a day where I sat there thinking, oh my goodness, I should have kept her. Even though she was a negative Nancy, I should have kept her around because of all those years of being friends at uni and all that type of stuff. Never felt that. Never felt the need. Never felt any of that. So if anyone out there is thinking to themselves now, but if I get rid of them, what if I regret it later on? If they're a negative Nancy, trust me, you're not really going to regret much because you're going to be too busy living your best life. YOLO. You're just going to get on with life and you're going to live your best life and you're going to get on with it. And you're not really going to give them a second thought. Yeah, maybe once in a while you might sit there and think, ugh, if they were around now, I could have maybe asked them this, that, and the other. But trust me, do you really want to sit around with that type of mentality? Or do you want to grow and do you want to achieve awesomeness and get on with life and live your best life and achieve more in life, find the one, be happy and do all those type of things? If someone is negative and holding you back and are making you feel like you can't do anything, they're literally making you feel like you're in a straitjacket. That friendship is a straitjacket. They're a negative Nancy, potentially a narcissist. You need to get out of there. And you need to make sure, if you are going to block negative Nancy, that in real life you remember an online block apparently doesn't work in real life. So you're going to have to find a way of blocking them in real life too. And that's a different story. I can tell you all about how I once blocked somebody who was a negative Nancy on social media and realised in the middle of Tesco that those blocks online don't work in real life. But hey ho, again, that's for another episode and we will talk about that then. But these are the things that we need to think about. You are number one. Block those negative Nancies. Get rid of those negative Nancies. If it's an aunt/family member that's a negative Nancy, you need to find a coping mechanism, whether or not that's meditating, whether or not that's keeping headphones in your ears whilst your auntie negative keeps rambling on about how you're now 26 and your eggs are rotting and you haven't got married yet and blah, blah, blah. These are the type of things you need to be thinking about. You need to put yourself first. Negative Nancies will not put you first. You need to put yourself first. Negative Nancies will leave you feeling drained. They will leave you feeling like you're worth nothing. You are worth so much more. I don't care who you are watching this and or listening to this. You are worth so much more. You need to prioritize yourself. And getting rid of negative Nancies is an awesome way of affirming that you are putting yourself first. You do that and suddenly you will start to notice awesome things, positive things, and things that are actually amazing coming into your life. You may even find an amazing friend instantly by getting rid of that negative Nancy, because sometimes people won't approach you because of the association you have with negative people. And it's a true story. I had that happen to me once on the playground. Somebody asked me if I was, married to such and such. And when I confirmed I was no longer married to them, they started talking to me. And I was like, really? Whoa. So I'm living proof that it does actually happen. Get rid of the negative Nancy. Or if you can't get rid of them, learn to control the impact they have within your life. And if they're actually more of a narcissist, guys, that is a complete different ball game. You need to up your game to get out of that. And we will talk about that, but narcissism is very, very dangerous. Not saying negative Nancies are not dangerous, because they can be too, but narcissism is a complete different ball game. Now, I feel like I've talked a lot about negative Nancies and I don't want to give them so much energy. I just wanted to focus on this subject for this podcast, because I believe that once we start to remove negativity from within our circles, we start to bring in positivity. And there is nothing I can think of that is worse than having a negative person within your actual immediate social circle. It's almost like having a rowing boat and you rowing in one direction, them rowing in another direction. They're blocking you from potentially moving forward. No. If you're trying to build your confidence, you're building your empowerment. You're going for that transformation. We need to make sure everything is lined up to show that. We want the universe, God, Allah, the power, divine to know we're serious about this. And that's how you're going to do it. You're going to start evaluating. You're going to invest where you need to invest. You're going to cut out those toxic people. You're going to reduce the impact of negative Nancy auntie. You're going to do all those things, because together we can do this journey. Together we've got it. I've got it, you've got it, we've got it. I've got your back, you can have my back, and so on and so forth. We've got this, okay? But we do need to stick together and we do need to do certain steps before we can actually do anything else. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap up this episode of my podcast. And as always, if you've liked what you've heard, don't forget to like, share, follow, subscribe, and also let other people know what it is that we're trying to do here, because the more people we can get the message to, the more transformations we can inspire and spark. And with that being said, guys, I will check you guys out in the next episode. So until then, guys, take care. Until next time, guys, take care, and I will speak to you all soon.